Thank you, Plainview ISD community, for sending in questions for our high school leadership as well as our athletic department. What we hope to do today is to address the questions that you've sent in as well as provide some additional information. First off, I'd like to encourage those who are viewing to share the information that we share with you today. First and foremost, we encourage you, if you haven't already, please get on to Skyward and register your student. And don't forget to indicate if the student will be either on-site or online. That helps us tremendously when it comes to our planning processes. In line with our planning processes, we were notified in June that we had to offer an online option. Up until that point, the only option available was on-site. So I want to address a clarification. When the school district, or when all school districts across the state of Texas were shut down in March of this year, we were able to provide laptops to students who didn't have a laptop because we didn't have students on campus. And so the roughly 1,000 laptops that we had available, we were able to distribute. We did receive most of them back, not all of them, but of those that we received back, they went back to the campuses from which we pulled them. With us starting school with an on-site option, our students will need those laptop devices for their on-site instruction. They're used in virtually all content areas. They're used also from elementary to middle to high school. If we were to pull those laptops and provide them for students who are selecting the online option, which currently stands at about 20%, the students who are on campus don't have access to those devices. As the Commissioner of Education and Governor have dictated, we are legally required to offer an on-site option. And that's our primary responsibility. The online option was really left at the district's discretion. Now, we're going to offer an online option, but it wasn't a legal requirement that we even offered online instruction. So where we find ourselves is, we're very fortunate that the board authorized the purchase of an additional 3,000 laptops. However, as you can imagine, we weren't the only school district that put in an order for additional laptops. We were all notified around the same time that there would be the potential to offer online instruction. The last information we received is they're backlogged to October and maybe even early November before they'll arrive. At that point in time, if we're still offering online instruction, we'll make those devices available. But at this point, our priority, as is directed by our Governor and Commissioner of Education, is to provide for on-site education with online as a secondary option. We have your questions, and we have our secondary administrators as well as our athletic director available. And so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to our public information officer, who will ask your questions, and our leadership will provide the answers. Thank you.
Will students have extra time before lunch to wash hands?
Okay, I'll take that one. I'm Kevin Parker, Associate Principal at Plainview High School. Students will not have extra time built in during lunch, but there will be sanitary stations at each of the 3 entrances to the cafeteria, as well as the bathroom in the cafeteria, so they will be able to get through, clean their hands, and then get in line for lunch.
How will social distancing be handled during lunch?
I'm Brent Reagan, I'm the principal at PHS. From the time students leave the classroom to go to lunch, they will be masked up. That means a mask covering the nose and the mouth. And as they enter the cafeteria, they'll go through the serving line with the mask up, and they will be allowed to remove it once they are seated at the table. The district has furnished plexiglass cubicles for each table, so students are able to enjoy their lunch and have protection on their right and left and in front of them to visit with their fellow students. But as long as they're seated, the mask can be off. As soon as they stand up, we're going to be asking students to make sure that the mask is up. And standing up will indicate that they're either asking to go to the restroom or they're going to proceed to the courtyard, where we will require that the mask stay on. And also we're providing the main gym as a seating area after they've completed their lunch to go in there and sit, and it will be marked off for socially distancing. And we believe that will afford most of our students the opportunity to take off their mask if they so choose. But socially distancing markers will be in place in the main gym.
And at the ASH program, the students, we are going to release the students to lunch by segments, by classes, one class at a time in 2-minute intervals. Some students will be leaving campuses. We'll have teachers monitoring the lines, and also inside of the cafeteria, students will be able to sit at the table up to 4, but it's according to the teacher discretion. When they are released from the cafeteria, again, it'll be by table. The teacher will release them to go to class, and also they will clean up their own area, they'll mask up, and then go to their next period class.
Social distancing on buses for after school and sporting events.
I'm Ryan Rhodes, Athletic Director, and I'll be happy to answer that. Buses without masking are limited to 14 students. Fortunately, we're going to ask our students to mask up, and by doing so, we will be able to transport 48 students safely. If we happen to have a bus that has 14 students or less, we will not require them to mask up, but we will require them to socially distance. But if there is 14 or more students on any bus, they will mask up and are allowed to sit to a seat at that point.
Will water fountains throughout the school be open?
Unfortunately, they will be closed, but we are encouraging students to bring their own water bottles, as the district's in the process of replacing those water fountains with water fill stations that students can use that water bottle to fill up, so they're not having to touch the button or anything like that. It just put your water bottle under there and it'll fill it up. So we'll hopefully get away with that.
And the procedures are basically the same at the ASH program. Students that are in a discipline setting, we are encouraging parents for the students to bring a water bottle, but it must be sealed upon entering, unbroken.
Sneezing, coughing, congestion due to allergies. How will this be recorded and work with state attendance policies?
Okay, I know that's been there's been some concern out there about, what do we do with children who have allergies or something, and they sneeze and their nose runs just because of the allergies. We are going to be constantly screening for COVID-19 symptoms in our staff and in our students, but we won't be considering a student at risk for COVID-19 until that student has symptoms beyond what is normal. And let me explain this. So for that student who does have allergies, and it's normal for that student to have a runny nose or to sneeze, as long as his mask is on, that's catching his sneeze in the mask, that student will probably be sent back to class because those symptoms are not out of the norm for that student. Now, if he comes down with a runny nose and sneezing, but he also has a fever and has lost his sense of taste or smell, then that student is going to be considered a possible COVID-19 student that has contracted it, and so that student will be sent home, or we'll call the student's parents so that that student can go home with a recommendation from us that student go to a medical provider and receive a test for COVID-19, or at least be seen. It doesn't mean that the student has COVID-19 if they go to the medical provider and they may have a cold, they may have a flu. That's one thing. Students are still getting colds and flu just like they normally did in this time. But we will recommend that they go see a doctor. Now, if the student does come down as a positive, then that student will have to stay home until the doctor releases them to come back to school. But really what we're going to be looking for when students are exhibiting symptoms of COVID-19, especially those that are common for other conditions, we're going to be looking for symptoms that are beyond what is normal for that student.
Will students be on the computer from 8 to 4 as regular in-person classmates?
Hi, I'm Daniel Fitzgerald. I'm the Associate Principal of Teaching and Learning at the high school. Since PISD has gone with the asynchronous model, which is a lot like doing an online college course, where the instructor posts material and then the student does it within a certain time frame, we do not expect students to log into their class live, but we do expect them to be working on their class material that is posted by their instructor, by their teacher during school hours.
And that would be the same for the ASH program.
So one thing I'd like to point out on that from what Mr. Fitzgerald has just said, the online learning will be very different than the in-person class. I know that many of us have experienced online meetings or where we Zoom into a meeting. That online learning is really not going to be zooming into that class as it's happening. In fact, they may not, in some classes, students who are doing the online instruction may have no interaction with their classmates that are doing the class live and in person. So that the style of learning and the style of the class is going to be very, very different than the ones that are in person learning in that class with that teacher.
Students who are doing online, when will they get their codes for each class?
So once we have an identified list of those students at the start of school, teachers will be reaching out to those students to set up initial contact for those classes. They will also be able to log into the student's PISD Gmail account, and those classes will be showing up within their Google Classroom. So they will have access to their codes, but we will definitely have our teachers reach out to those students for that initial setup and if there's any questions getting started.
At the ASH program, we are asking the students to contact the counselor. The teachers, we will reach out to the students, the parents, to let them know, but we have tried to sync the in-person and the online teaching so that it wouldn't be much of a difference. So we will be contacting you, but also be on the lookout on the ASH Facebook page.
Will core classes be offered via live stream?
I would say that they're not. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. We don't expect our students to log on directly at the time that their class period is happening. So they will be working, much like Mr. Brown said, through modules, through lessons that have been posted by the teacher. Now, our teachers will be setting up times where they could do a Google Meet, which is a time where students can come and join the teacher virtually to ask any questions or talk about anything. And then we will also have our exceptional ed staff and our English learning staff there as well to set up Google Meets with their students to make sure that they are getting the support that they need.
At the ASH program, we have it set up where all the classes are going to look the same virtually. They have set up Bitmoji classrooms. So each classroom, no matter what subject, will have the same thing. For example, if you have a laptop in one classroom, so if you click on the laptop, it will always be the teacher's instruction coming from that laptop, no matter what subject, what class, what teacher. We also have a teacher Bitmoji where the student will be able to click on that, and that Bitmoji will send an email to the teacher where the student can ask a question. Also, we have the teachers paired up with somebody, so another teacher will be checking the emails throughout the day, throughout the week, answering some questions. And again, just like at PHS, students will be able to set up time to meet with the teacher if they have any questions or comments with the EL exceptional learners.
And we will also, our teachers will also set up times and have scheduled times on their calendar where parents can sign up to meet with them if they have questions.
Will teachers be available after 4 to answer questions?
So at Plainview High School, our office hours are going to be from 7:50 to 4:25 daily. And we do give teachers, we've asked them to do about approximately 30 minutes a day in office hours. So after 4:25, a teacher can ask or answer a question, but those are their locked office hours. So it's not an expectation on our end, but we will have some teachers that will be available, but that is completely up to them.
I could add something to that as far as the dedicated office hours for students to contact their teachers and get clarification on any coursework. From 3:55 to 4:25 each day, teachers are going to be available, but that is Monday through Thursday. And then during our normal TCB times, teachers are going to try to structure part of the first 4 days of the week to be dedicated to online learners. But keep it in mind at the same time, they will also have face-to-face learners during TCB. So it will be priority one group or the other, probably every other day, Monday through Thursday.
And at the ASH program, students and parents will be able to contact the teachers between 8 and 4. Now, we do have the Apex credit recovery that will run as normal because we know that students complete their work outside of the 8 to 4 realm. They will still be able to contact Monica Nunez to be moved on to unlock certain quizzes and tests. So that part will run the same as previously in the past.
What sanitary protocols will be put in place?
With the sanitary protocol, what's going to happen at the end of each day, the custodians will go through and sanitize each and every classroom. I know that the custodians will be going through the restrooms and making sure that the stuff is sanitized also, and they will do this on a more frequent basis.
There's going to be numerous other sanitary protocols we've talked about as well, such as shutting down water fountains and water bottles. There'll be hand sanitizers that are available in every classroom. There'll be disinfectant available in classrooms. And then if we do have for some reason a certain concern in the middle of the day in one classroom or one area, custodians will be going in there with our Clorox 360 machines and spraying, fogging basically the room with disinfectant that travels into cracks and to crevices to make sure things are clean. We're also, very important, everyone will be wearing masks and social distancing in the building, and that the masks will be incredibly important for kids being able to stay in school and teachers being able to continue to teach them. Anything else I'm missing, gentlemen, as far as sanitary protocols?
If a student tested positive for COVID, we do have it set up where the class will be moved to another class while that initial class is being cleaned. So we do have alternative location for students and the teacher to teach while the particular class is being sanitized.
If I don't want to do online and I don't want to do PHS, will I be able to easily enroll at ASH?
The process will still go the same, where the students, they have to go to their counselors. The counselors will meet first and discuss if ASH is the proper setting for the student. ASH is not for every student. So you still have to meet the requirements to transfer to ASH, but to get to ASH, you must go through PHS.
For Meet the Teacher, schedule pickup, back to school night, will it be done virtually as well?
On back to school night, we're still in the planning phases of that. There's going to be 2 events for parents early in the fall. First of all, before we get through August, we're going to have a freshman parent orientation night at the school. That will be done in the auditorium, and it will be an opportunity for parents to understand what this transition from middle school to high school is about. We'll take their questions. They'll meet freshman teachers, and they'll be introduced to the activities that are available at the high school. And as I said, that'll be in the auditorium. It will most definitely be recorded, and we are looking to try to have it where we can have live communication with parents that may have questions in real time. For the open, fall open campus night for our parents, we are still looking at what we're going to do with that. That will be a transition. That is a night mainly for parents to walk their students' class schedule and to meet face-to-face with those teachers. But I suspect that we're also going to have that technology available so that those parents are able to visit with their teachers in real time.
At the ASH program, we are currently revamping our ABC partnership night so that we can meet the guidelines due to COVID. We will have it, but it will be revised.
How will class period transitions be handled?
Teachers at the end of each class period will remind students to mask up. They'll still have the 4 minutes between each class. It will be as normal as it can be with masks on. There will be teachers out in the hallway assuring the students are moving, walk and talk. Administrators will be in there in the halls getting kids through. We've asked several teachers, or all of our teachers, if they have a conference leading up to the passing period, if they will kind of clear out the hallways, get them cleared so that we can get into the next class period.
And it's the same with the ASH program.
How will the return be a traditional high school experience with masks?
It's kind of a tough one. Traditional, I think, is kind of out the window because we're all in the mask period right now. We're going to try to keep it as normal. I'm going to use normal now as best we can. But as you know, we're wearing masks with the athletics, band, CTE, things that we've come out with at board meetings and through social media. It's not normal, I would say, but we're going to make it as normal as we can because I'm a Plainview High School graduate and I understand how important the high school experience is. And we're going to do everything we can with the mask on to make it traditional or normal.
And it's the realization that things are different, but it's trying to get back to as much normalcy as possible with this. We have to relearn ourselves in the education setting. We have to relearn our students while learning new students. And at the same time, respecting each other's beliefs and following the guidelines. So the school setting in the classroom, it should be normal. The only difference is you're wearing a mask. Sometimes it's going to be hard to breathe. Sometimes you're going to have to take the mask down to get some air. We understand that. But some things we won't know until that first day of school because there's going to be some ideas, some people are going to be scared. We haven't been in school for 5 months. So we will deal with it with the information that we have, but we must remember also we're human and we're relearning this and we'll take it step by step.
How will lunches work at the high school and the ASH program for those who do not leave the campus?
From the earlier question on that, for students that decide to stay on campus for lunch, and that pertains only to sophomores, juniors, and seniors who have that option. Freshmen, it's a closed campus. Same procedures, they will enter the cafeteria, mask up, go through the serving line with mask on. They can remove the mask when they are seated at the table to have lunch. Again, plexiglass cubicles will be in place at the table. And if they decide to leave the table, they will mask up again. And they have several options in. They can go to the courtyard, and we will ask them to keep the mask on even in the courtyard. We think a lot of them will take the opportunity to go to the main gym in that area, which all of these areas are monitored. The gym will be marked off for socially distancing, 6 to 8 feet apart, and students will then have the option to remove the mask or keep it on. But there will not be an option for students going to the main gym to be closer together than socially distancing allows. So it will be at least 6 to 8 feet in the main gym.
At ASH, we do not have open campus with the lunch, off-campus lunch. So it will remain the same where students must earn the right to have off-campus lunch. Once a student enters the cafeteria, again, they'll sanitize and they'll mask up. and they'll mask up until they're seated. We are encouraging, or we're regulating that the students do not switch seats. We have monitors in the cafeteria, so wherever the student decide to sit or teacher discretion, they must remain there. Students will not be able to share food. They will only be able to eat the food they brought. So once a student gets up, the teacher will know where they're going, why they're going, but they must stay in their directed area.
Will students need to show up earlier to have their temperatures checked, and will school bells stay the same?
That's a great question. We expect around 1,300 students coming to campus. And our doors to students will open at 7:30 every morning. Monday through Thursday, our tardy bell to first period is 8:05. We encourage students to be in the building by 8 o'clock. And what that will involve, there are going to be designated entrances to the building where temperature checks will take place, and they will be allowed to enter the building. If they come in early, say 20 to 8, something like that, they'll get their temperature taken. They will not be allowed to hang around in hallways. They will have 3 options. They can go directly to the cafeteria for breakfast. Same rules apply as they do at lunch. If you're seated in the cubicle area, you can take the mask off. Or if you do not want to go to the cafeteria, you can go to the courtyard, mask on, or you can go to the main gym, and that will be social distancing, and you will be allowed to have the mask off if you so desire. The thing to emphasize here is we don't want a line going into the building at 8 o'clock when the first bell rings, because we know if that line is long, kids are not going to get to first period on time. 8:05 will be the tardy bell. And let me emphasize that. They're going to be tardy at 8:05, so they really need to be through that temperature line by 8 o'clock and in the building, so they have plenty of time to get to class. And there will be multiple temperature check guns available right there at each entrance so that we can expedite students going to class.
The procedures at ASH has been modified. Students who drive to school, they will still enter the front doors. Before they enter the front door, ASH staff person will be standing there to check their temperature. If their temperature is above the 100.4, they will not be allowed to enter the building. ASH will contact the parents to let them know that their students were sent home because of because of their temperature. Students who are being dropped off, they will enter the north side of the parking lot and drive to the back of the building, and there will be a staff member there to check temperature. They will not be allowed to leave their vehicle. Their temperature will be taken in the vehicle. If they meet the protocols, they'll be allowed to enter the building through the back side. If a student is already on the bus, their temperature has been checked already, therefore we allow them direct entrance into the building. Students that are in a discipline setting, their temperature will be checked also. They will not be allowed to exit their vehicle until their temperature is checked. Once it's checked and they meet the following guidelines, they will be allowed to enter the building also. So we have multiple stations, multiple staff members outside to check the temperature. We'll also have an admin at each point. So therefore, if a decision needs to be made, that decision will be made by the admin and not a teacher.
And to respond to that question regarding the high school bell schedule, the schedule that was adopted in January this past spring, that will remain our same bell schedule. So Monday through Thursday, 8:05 will be the beginning of first period. On Friday, it will be a delayed start for students, and that first period tardy bell will ring at 8:52 on Fridays only. And that affords the entire faculty an hour planning each Friday before students arrive.
And at Ash, the tardy bell every day will ring at 8 o'clock. On the discipline side, the tardy bell will ring at 8:10. Please remember, once the tardy bell rings on the discipline side at 8:10, the student will not be allowed to enter for the day. It will be an unexcused absence.
If an educator or student in a class tests positive for the virus, how will this be handled?
There are protocols in place for both employees of the district and students. They're very similar, but let me go ahead and I'll address the student protocols. First of all, a student exhibiting symptoms or a diagnosis of COVID-19, the student will immediately notify campus administration of symptoms and or a positive diagnosis, and this will be confirmed through the campus nurse. It will be recorded, and then students will be required to self-isolate or quarantine for 14 days. And they will immediately be moved from in-person to online remote learning. The requirements to return to campus for students, they need to have completed the 14-day isolation quarantine. They need to be currently fever-free and have been fever-free without medication for 3 days, 72 hours. They need to not exhibit any symptoms of COVID-19 and have been symptom-free for 3 days before returning to school. Very important information, they need to provide our campus nurse with a healthcare provider release to return to school statement. And after that has been completed, they need to meet with their campus counselor and principal and be cleared to return to in-person instruction.
And it's the same as Ash.
What will arrangements look like in a classroom setting?
Most of our classrooms will be this traditional setting. Most of our classrooms are not of the size that we're going to be able to socially distance. So students will be required to wear a facial covering, mask or shield that covers the nose and mouth. If a teacher is greater than 6 feet away from the nearest student, the teacher is allowed at their discretion to remove their mask if they are socially distanced. We want to do this because it is important for our students to clearly hear the instruction that's being given. We're also thinking that if students are wearing a shield, it's important for a teacher to be able to see their facial expressions to know whether learning's taking place. That's a critical part to learning. So in most of our classes, students will be required to mask up over nose and mouth. There are certain areas where social distancing may be possible, and then that will be student discretion.
And one more thing that I wanted to address on one of the questions was how will online learning work and what to expect for parents. We have posted our instructional plan on the PHS Facebook page and the PHS website. And something that we really want people to understand is that our online instruction will be different from the spring than it was. And the other thing is that our grading policy will apply. And one thing we will be doing at the high school is an attendance ticket daily. And our teachers will be calling it an attendance ticket, and that is going to be separate from grading. And so that attendance ticket is something, it could be a question, it could be a multiple choice, it could be an exit ticket. It's something that our teachers will post in their course, and teachers will be taking attendance by 4 each day. And it's really important that we make sure that you're encouraging your students as a parent to support them on getting that attendance ticket done, and then also completing the grading assignments, because we will be taking at least 2 grades per week and following the grading policy.
And to be included in that day's accounts as far as being present in class, you will have to do the attendance ticket or complete work in that class every day. If a student does not log in and complete work, again, if he doesn't log in and complete work, that will count as an absence for that day, an unexcused absence. And the same attendance rules apply to online students as apply to in-person students. once you accumulate 10 unexcused absences, the school is required to file for truancy. So parents, just a little note about what to expect as parents. If you've ever had any, done any online learning at home or remote learning, it's very important that you as a parent stay very engaged with your child. I don't think you can expect to let your child learn on their own without any interaction or without you being present and for them to do their best in their schooling. So it will require you to stay engaged in what your child is doing, to be available to ask questions. There will be some time and a commitment to stay with your child during that time. So for attendance sake and for your child's grades, you will need to be involved. So we want to make sure that's very clear in our online learning.
I'd also like to offer this up, the question earlier about the traditional high school experience. We all know it's certainly going to be a little bit different, but I really do believe our kids are resilient and they adapt to a new environment very quickly, and that's evidenced every year when we receive our new freshman class. It takes them about a week or so, and then it's like they've always been there with us. And we feel like the same thing is going to be true this school year. Our teachers are eager to see our students. And we believe our students want to see their teachers, and we believe that's where the best learning takes place. So we are really looking forward to the start of school.
And please remember, with the ASH program, we operate on a 9-week semester. So therefore, after the 4th or maybe the 5th absence, unexcused, the student will lose semester credit. So it is very important for the student to log in each day for the attendance, but also complete the work, because we are operating on a 9-week semester, not 6 weeks. So it is very important for them to do the work when they're supposed to complete the work.
How might STAR exams work this year?
TEA has indicated to us that the STAR exam will take place, and we are planning for that. And whether you're an online learner or face-to-face, we believe that face-to-face learners will have an advantage in that. But our goal is to prepare every student for the STAR. And the rest is up to TEA, but we're planning for STAR, yes.
I agree.
If online is done the first 6 weeks and the child returns to school, will they be able to participate in band or athletics?
They will be given the opportunity. Obviously, when you miss 6 weeks of learning in any situation, you're going to be behind to some degree. And so what we want to do is give them the opportunity, but their teammates or the band members are going to be further along because they've simply been there the first 6 weeks in person. And so although they'll be allowed the opportunity to participate in athletics or band, that doesn't necessarily mean they can step right back into the role they may have had before they went online. They will have to earn back that opportunity to play.
For football and basketball games, will fans be allowed in the stands?
There will be fans allowed in the stands. Our district met today in football, and our district will meet tomorrow in all other sports to discuss exactly what form that will take. The UIL is giving a long list of mitigation type things and protocols that we will have to follow. There is a 50% capacity right now for any fans in the stands. Anybody entering any venue that we have a competition of any type in will have to be checked and go through protocols as far as temperature screening, as far as COVID-19 screening and things like that. The 50% thing in regard to attendance in the venues will not quite be 50% because every other row will have to be skipped according to UIL rule, and then on the rows that are able to be utilized, then you will have to still use social distancing within that. So you're going to have a different type of atmosphere. You're not going to be able to fill the stands quite like we've been privileged to have here in Plainview, but we will have fans there in the stands, and we're going to do all we can to make sure that the participants within the contest, that those families get an opportunity to see their children play.
I'd like to thank our principals, as well as athletic director and assistant superintendent, for answering the questions that you posed. I'm sure our conversation has prompted other questions. As you have those questions, please reach out to the high school, either to PHS or the ASH program, and there will be people that will be more than happy to answer those questions. On a closing note, I do have to say that in a very personal way, please, parents, you're our partner in this work. If your child isn't feeling well, please don't send them to school. If they're running a fever, please don't try to give them Tylenol or aspirin and get their fever down and bring them to school. Please work with your medical professionals. By you doing your part and we doing our part, we can ensure that this is a good school year, a good start, and that our kids are back in the swing of things, and we can begin to inch bit by bit together back to what we'll define as our new normal. But you don't do it by yourself, and we can't do it by ourselves, and the kids can't do it without us working together. So with that, thank you.